And in the process of caring for my nails and doing stuff without any sort of protection on my nails, I have a thumbnail that has a split on the corner, and then I caught my pinky nail in something, and there's a small split at the end of that nail as well. But I really like the length of all of my nails right now, being that they're cut down. So I am going to actually silk wrap those two nails. And I know some of you have asked me about silk wraps. What are they? How do I use them? How do I apply my silk wraps? And so I wanted to go ahead and take this opportunity, since I have it, to go ahead and show you how I apply my silk wraps and the products that I do use. So first things first, I use Rachel's 100% nail silk wraps. And they come in these long strips. This is actually a strip that's been used, so the strip is usually much longer than this. And you can use it for overlays. I do use it with tips. And maybe one day when I break an entire nail, I'll show you that. But for the most part, I like to use this. I know a lot of people like to use the pre-cut kind, and I have used those as well, from Sally Beauty Supply. But I found that this is a much better deal. I got 3 of these long packages from Amazon, and I believe it was only maybe like $3 or $4. And I can, out of this, I can get probably, out of just one package, I can get maybe 15 probably or more silk wraps, full sets. That's all 10 nails, because I can trim them to the size that I want them to be. But with the pre-cuts, you're only going to get maybe 3 or 4, and then you're going to have to start trimming because some of the strips are going to be too big or whatever. So this is really what I prefer to use. It does have the self-adhesive on the back that just helps to control the silk wrap. So I use this. So you can find that from Amazon or eBay. As far as the glue, the resin, or whatever you want to call it, that you are going to put over the silk wrap that you'll see, I use ASP's Lightless Gel. I know a lot of people use just a regular nail resin, or they just use a nail glue. I have done that as well. I do it especially if I run out of this, because this stuff for a very small bottle at Sally's, just like everything that they have, is overly expensive. But this is nothing but a concentrated nail glue. So you can use this. It's just the same as concentrated nail glue. For me, it gives added strength. I'm not lengthening my nails. I'm just repairing or protecting the nail that I do have. So that is what I would use in lieu of regular glue. To me, this lasts longer. It can hold on. I can fill it in better, that sort of stuff, and it just uses less product. So I really encourage this product to the same degree. I use ASP's accelerator, or to set the gel resin, so I don't have to wait for the glue to dry. You can really use any kind. The type that I actually prefer comes in a tall white bottle, and I ran out of it. I bought it online as well, but they sell it in Sally's. It comes in a very tall white bottle, and it's just called Nail Accelerator or something like that. It's actually a canister that you spray with, and that actually dries quicker to me, but both of them are about the same. But I am using this right now, so that's what I'll be using today. OPI's Bond-Aid, I am going to use that to base all of my nails so that the silk wraps stay adhered for as long as possible. And of course, you're going to need some scissors and some other things, and I'll show you the tools as we go along. Another thing you will see me use is this little bottle. This is just a little nail brush that has some acetone in it, and that's what I use to help smooth out my silk wrap. I'm going to go ahead and get started, and you will see me repair my pinky and possibly see me repair my thumbs. I just kind of am able to eyeball it, and I try to really cover most of my nail, not spilling over, so it can be a little shy, but I do try to cover most of my nail when I do these. Now, if you want to, you can just choose to use it just on the very tip. That's fine as well, but I go ahead and just cover the whole nail if I have a nail that needs to be protected. I apologize for the huge scissors that I need to use, but I cannot find my other scissors right now. So make sure that whatever scissors you use, that they are very sharp. You don't want anything that's going to make the silk wrap fray or pull, because that's just going to make things more difficult for you. I actually cut this a little large, so I'm going to trim just the slightest bit. And you can continue to do that until you get the right size. For me, this size is going to be sufficient. Once you trim the piece the way you want it, cut corners off of the piece. It does not have to be in a circular shape because it's not going to touch the cuticle. You're not going to be able to see this once you put a resin over it. It will immediately become transparent. So as you can see, this pretty much fits my nail. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut for my thumb. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut corners just to prevent those sharp edges from spilling over into the actual cuticle. And that's going to cause lifting, so we don't want that. So those are those two. Now I'm just going to go ahead and use my OPI Band-Aid, and I'm going to prime my entire nail. Another good primer, if you happen to have it on hand, and I would actually venture to say the best primer that I even have ever used, is Sensational's primer. Only problem is you have to get that in the Essentials kit, and that Essentials kit can run you up to $20. And so a lot of people don't want to purchase that whole kit. Hopefully Sensational will listen up and start selling that separately, because it's very easy to spill. It comes in kind of a bottle about this size, and you can, I've hit it multiple times and it's spilled over. It also comes in the full kit if you've recently gotten a Sensational gel nail kit, so you can do that. But I just purchased a big bottle of the OPI Band-Aid. And I'm going to go ahead and apply my silk. I will tell you, one of the best tools to have on hand when you're doing silk wraps is a pair of old tweezers. I almost said pliers. Is a pair of old tweezers. It's good to pick it up, even though you can do it with your nails. If you really were in a bind and you needed to do that, that would be fine. But the lesser amount of oil that you can put into the silk wrap, the better. And luckily with this particular brand, it doesn't kind of do that moth to a flame thing that some people will say the silk wraps do. It certainly attracts to the nail, but not the same way. And I try to avoid putting, for instance, like my whole finger on the back of the silk. So I pull the backing off. And because of that self-adhesive, as you can see, I can open up my I don't know why I keep saying pliers. I can open up my tweezers and the silk wrap will stay on. Now it attracts to the nail, the adhesive. Also, if I need to move it around a little bit, I can do that very gingerly with the tweezers. I do not want to touch the cuticle. I want to avoid the cuticle at all costs. And definitely make sure at a minimum that you have covered where the weak area is or where the split is. So there you see that. I have covered that entire nail. Specifically, I'm making sure that where the split is, that area is covered, which it is. And I just press down. Some people choose to actually use the adhesive paper that the silk wrap came on to press it down to avoid additional oil. It really is whatever you'd like to do. I take my lightless gel, a small dot of that, Because it is more concentrated, it does not spread the way that a regular glue or a resin does. So you have a little bit more time. And then I just use my brush out of my acetone to smooth out the lightless gel over the entire nail, avoiding the cuticle. And as you can see, the silk wrap has already become completely transparent. I do clean up my edges just because I can, because I'm using the lightless gel. So I have more time before the gel begins to set. I use my activator or my bioset. I make sure that I stay a good distance away from the finger. If you come too close up on it or you spray too much, this will burn. And it is not a good feeling for about 5 to 10 seconds of your life. So definitely back away. And actually right now, if I wanted to, once I wait for this to set, you know, I don't have to do any additional coats. But I do add a couple of other coats, usually at least 1 or 2, to just give me that added strength. Some people will also take a little bit of the resin, and depending on the type of split that I have, put a little bead on the back, because the split is at the top as opposed to the side, and go on the back end, and just where it's split, give it added protection so that you make sure that does not happen again. Very, very thin. Very thin on the back. Otherwise, you will see a lot of splitting, a lot of chipping, and you do not want that. And go ahead and let that set as well. While you're waiting for that to set, I'm going to go ahead and work on my next finger, which is my thumb. I already primed it earlier. Sometimes when you try to take the silk wrap off, the corner will roll or whatever. Don't worry about it, because all of that's going to get filed off. For instance, all this down here on the tip, that's going to be filed off. So as long as the portion that's going to cover your nail is not damaged in any way, I go ahead and proceed. I'll line it up, press it down. I'm just going to use the paper technique for this one. And again, I don't have to touch my nail. My finger does not touch the silk at all at this point. Or you can just do what I'm doing here, which is to press lightly with your nail. Now, mind you, with my finger, my hands are very, very clean right now. I made sure that I wiped them off. I not only washed them, but I wiped them off with alcohol. Of course, it's dry, but that just takes all the oil out of my hand and make sure that it doesn't do any damage to the silk wrap. But if you can see here, the silk wrap is covering my entire nail. Same technique. I'm just going to use a slightly bigger drop of the lightless gel because my thumb is, of course, a much larger nail. I make sure that I dab off the acetone from this brush, and I spread that out just like I would a nail polish or a brush on glue. The only difference is that the lightless gel has a thicker consistency, and I have found that it is much easier to control. I'm going to use my bioset, 2 light sprays. Now this particular nail split over on the side, so I'm going to do the same thing that I did, and this really applies more so for repairs. If you're just doing a regular silk wrap, I have found that I don't need to do this unless you just want that added protection for whatever reason. If your nails typically do split on the sides, then you may want to do this. The bio set is there, and I'm going to go ahead and let that go ahead and set up. And you'll see that it will be really, really shiny, and then it'll kind of still be shiny, but it's a different type of sheen. It doesn't look like wet shiny. It just looks like shiny, kind of the way that it would after you've dried a base coat of nail polish. If you see this nail here, this nail is completely dry. This one still has some moisture to it. So this one is completely set. Okay. I'm going to do another coat of the lightless gel for added strength. A small dot. Wipe off my acetone. And I'm going to apply more of the gel, which again is only a really concentrated nail glue. I'm going to go underneath with the little bit that's left on my brush for added strength. Very, very thin. And again with my bio set. By the time this is done, my thumb is also set, and you can see how much stronger my nails are. I'll show you a comparison from my other nails in a moment. A dollop of the resin or the lightless gel. Wipe off my acetone. Smooth out the gel, making sure that I do touch the back end where the damage was done on the nail, where the split actually is, to prevent it from splitting any further. What helps with that as well is this will help that area to be strong enough so that hopefully I don't even have to put a whole new silk wrap on my next manicure. I can just do a fill-in, and hopefully by a couple of weeks this area would have grown out enough to where I no longer need the silk wrap. I can just go ahead and take the silk wrap off, trim off the portion that was damaged, and still have the length that I need to my natural nail so that it can be even without starting over. Starting over can be frustrating, especially if you're a person like me who's never really had very long nails up until now. The last thing you want to do is start from scratch. So that's that. Usually I do 3 coats of the resin or the lightless gel. You do not have to do that. It just depends on the level of strength that you like for your nail. And also, if you're going to be using a gel strengthener like Vita-Gel or something like that that already gives you kind of a thickness to your nail, personally I try to mirror that strength or that thickness so that I don't feel like that nail is weird in some sort of way. Very thin coat again of the lightless gel. And as you can see, with the small amount of lightless gel that you really need in order to give you strength to your nail, that bottle, even though it's very small, will last you some time. And that is your silk wrap. All you're going to have to do at this point is to trim off the ends. Now you can choose to use just a regular nail clipper for that if you would like to. I'll just show you with a little bit here. And it will clip right off with no problem. It will clip all the way through. You can do that if you want to. Or you can just simply use whatever scissor you're using, if it is strong enough, that will cut through the resin as well as the silk. It's really your option. Now you're going to take a buffer, and this I believe is a 80 grit, maybe an 8100 grit, and file downward until you meet where the natural nail is. Do not try to lengthen your nail just with some silk wrap and some lightless gel. It will not be long enough. It will split. It will chip. I'm not saying that because I've ever done that. I'm saying that because just from what I see of the texture, and even occasionally one time I left just a little corner because I had a nail that had kind of wasn't even on the corner. It had rounded off on that corner, and I did that, and that nail gave me so much trouble. Once you have it down to where the nail meets, you just go ahead and shape the nail naturally. And that's all you need. Then I do the same thing here. I actually make sure that there's no resin or glue that has stuck to the side wall of my nail, because that of course can happen, especially when you have a break on the side. Shape the nail. And as you can see, the resin or the lightless gel automatically gives that nail a shine that is much different from the rest of my natural nails. It gives it a shine. What you're going to want to do is buff off that shine. Why? Even though you have used the brush and technique, which has definitely given you a much smoother application, you could also, if you wanted to, just use a nail brush or a design brush or an acrylic brush and just make sure you're dipping it regularly in acetone. But this works well. For all intents and purposes, my nails are smooth. But there may be a bump or a dent somewhere that you're going to want to get rid of. So I would encourage you to buff your nail. Now, there's some people who say, well, I just use clear polish and I don't see any need for that. I would rather it just stay with a shiny look. You can do that, but you're going to lose some time off of your nail as long as the silk wrap stays on. So you're not going to be able to keep it on without needing to repair it. And your polish won't really adhere to it very well either. Now, a good way, I do not use any sort of buffing drill or a tool. I just use a regular old nail file. And this one is a 100 grit, so it's the same on both sides. And the best way to know if you have a bump or a ridge is after you've buffed over your entire nail. If you see a shiny spot, that means that there's a bump or a ridge there or something you need to smooth out. Once it all has a dull look to it, you'll know that it's all smoothed out. That's what that is. And do the same for any other nails that you may do. Okay. Now, all you need to do is go and wash your hands, get all of the additional buffing residue and dust off of your nail, and then cover that with a gel top coat or a gel sealer. That will give you the lasting power that you need for your nails. It will also give you a shine on top, and you are free to either leave your nail, you know, just with the sealer or the top coat on it, or you can polish over top of that. So that's the way that I do my silk wraps and silk repairs. If you have any questions, just let me know. I would love to hear from you, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Have a good one.